Yeah. Okay. Here's a fun one.
Okay.
If crypto is to become a global reserve, why wouldn't the governments just create their own? And what would be the difference between Bitcoin and Fedcoin?
That is one of my favorite topics. So that's the whole idea of CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, which I honestly think those are coming. They really want this technology to eliminate the bottlenecks for them as well. The risk with that, and the reason why I don't think in the long term that'll work, even though it probably will in the short term, is when they create something, they want control over it. And so the advantage to something like Bitcoin is it's decentralized, it's unconfiscatable, it's immutable. And what they want to do is create the exact opposite of that. But they can create that on one of these networks that has all those properties, and they can make more control than they've ever had. So, when you talk about the dangers of a central bank digital currency, you're not just talking about them having just control over the money supply anymore. Now you're talking about they can have granular control over other aspects of that money, like what it gets spent on and how long it's available to you for. Like, I mean, if you replace food stamps with a crypto version of that, dollars wise, you can put rules in there that says if they don't spend it by the end of the month, it just goes away. Or so I kind of think that at first it'll be popular just because it'll be used as a way out of whatever our current financial dilemma is, and maybe even airdrop to people. But in the long term, as people come to terms with what kind of control that allows over their lives, it's going to fail miserably when it's compared to, the decentralized, the ones that don't have any entity controlling them.
Okay.
Thoughts on that?
No, I tend to agree. So which one, gold or cryptocurrency, will the ESF use in its operations going forward?
The ESF being
the Exchange Stabilization Fund, I believe, is what's meant.
Okay, so like the World Bank.
Yeah, you're quiet again, by the way.
Oh, I'm sorry. So like the World
Bank, that type of thing, like the central bank. Are we talking central bank stuff?
Oh, the Exchange Stabilization Fund is the organization that was created that gives the presidential administration the ability to intervene in currency markets.
Okay.
This would, yeah.
All right, I get you. And what would? So I'm sorry.
Would they use gold or cryptocurrency in its operations?
I mean, my response to that is kind of like, why not both? I mean, I kind of have this funny feeling. I know gold will be a big part of it because all of these centralized entities own large amounts of gold. They own it in quantity of thousands of or hundreds, at least hundreds of tons, right? So I know gold will be part of it. I think crypto will be part of it too. It's almost like it's a diversification. I can see both being used to a certain extent. I don't know. I mean, I'd have to be an insider at one of those meetings to know what their actual plans are, though. Same as you.
Mm-hmm. Well, the way I see it is before it's used, they have to have it, right? And as you mentioned, they already have lots of gold. All of the major central banks around the world have gold on their books. They treat it as a reserve asset. I don't see crypto on any official ledger. And I think before any organization would, use any kind of crypto to, act as a mechanism for stabilization of currencies, there would have to be some kind of a global agreement on, which crypto it would be, how it would be used, how it would be valued on the book, how it would be distributed, and then they'd have to accumulate all of it. And I think from that standpoint, gold already has the momentum on its side, right?
But I see the market determining that more than anything else. I know that gold, like I said, gold definitely, but I kind of think So when you talk about that, like no central bank actually holds it on their balance sheet, there are a few at this point that actually do. And Belarus comes to mind because I think they confiscated a bunch from a dark website. And rather than actually doing what the U.S. government did when they confiscated their stuff from the Silk Road, they actually decided to just keep it. And I think that has to do with the way technology gets adopted more than anything. Like, I've never seen an existing power structure that takes a radical new technology anywhere in history where they embrace it. They're forced to embrace it over time. So, and it always starts at the fringes. So
it starts with Belarus. Huh?
Well, I mean, it starts with also corporations like we talked about last time with like MicroStrategy, Square, all these companies that are looking to protect their assets. You know, if they start treating Bitcoin that way, then that's the market making that determination. And, you know, I heard an interesting thing from, I think it was the central bank president, the Bank of England. I think it was one of the higher ups at the Bank of England, like might have been the director of it. And he was talking about how their job isn't to regulate new technology. It's to make sure it happens in an orderly fashion, which was a distinct, and he was being specifically asked about cryptocurrencies, because I think a lot of what these things do is replicate traditional financial services in the digital world in a way that makes it trustless, where you don't have to have lawyers and accountants that are auditing everything because it's already permanently audited. I've heard it referred to as triple entry accounting. Like if you know anything about the history of money, the Medici invented double entry accounting, and it made them incredibly powerful in old Europe. And I've seen Bitcoin as described multiple times by people in the financial world as triple entry accounting.
Okay. All right. Well, we've gone for, it looks like another hour and a half. So the question is, should we keep going, or should we continue next week? It's up to you.
I mean, I'm fine
to keep going for a little while. How much more do you think we need to get through? Let's put it that way.
Let's see. We have, from what I can tell, we might have another half an hour to go.
We could finish it up, and if your viewers want more at some point, I've got no problem coming back and.
Okay, well, this is going to be another deluge of videos for them. Okay, so let's move on to the questions that are related to security and privacy.
Okay.
So how do we know that Bitcoin is truly private? How do we know it's not a PSYOP?
Well, those are two different questions, but I'll start with the security thing is, or if it's truly not private. It's not. It's what's called pseudonymous. So and that's part of the problem with buying it today. Like if you're buying it for nefarious activities, it's a horrible idea, because if you buy from Coinbase and transfer it out, they now have a record that ties you to that private key and then can follow that Bitcoin around. And there are even companies that do that on the behalf of different organizations. So it's not private. It's semi-private. And if you really know what you're doing, there are ways to there are mixing services and things like that where you can make it more private again. But at some point that may even be seen as like, what were you doing that you needed to make your Bitcoin private? It goes into this ether and then we never see it come out. So in a sense, it's the very thing that makes it verifiable for everyone makes it so it can't truly be private, which is where there's a niche open in that ecosystem for privacy coins. Like I mentioned, Monero earlier is probably the biggest right now. Knowing that it's not a PSYOP is a totally different thing. Which is an interesting conversation, because I watched Bitcoin kind of grow up. And I read a lot of Satoshi's writing in the Bitcoin talk.org forum, and all of those are still available today if you wanted to go back and see everything he ever said about every topic.
Well, you say he. How do you know it's a he?
I don't. I probably.
Who is Satoshi?
He, she, them, whoever it was. Whoever it was. I would love to meet the group person, whoever that was, at some point. Like, I consider it like it's one of those genius ideas, but it was so unpolished at the time. Like, that's kind of why, like, I can give you a lot of reasons why I don't think it was some nefarious government organization that created Bitcoin, that was Satoshi Nakamoto. But even if you didn't believe any of that, part of the point is that it wouldn't really matter because of how much development has been done over the last 10 years in the open source environment, how many people have looked at and created pull requests for the code that made it better. So it's so evolved from where it started that it's almost a different beast in that sense. But if you want to know why I don't think Satoshi himself was the psyop that a lot of people seem to think, it has to do with the way the code was at the beginning. I mean, it was completely unpolished when it came out, and it had remnants of other things he or she or them was trying to include in it. Like, why even bother putting a poker client built into the original software if you were if it was a government entity that was doing that, or the amount of little things that were in there that made no sense to even have in the original code just seems so far off to me from some polished group that was trying to create a psyop would do. And then there's also the writings themselves, like everything he put into the writings about Bitcoin was anti-government in a lot of sense. Like, the very first block has the message in it from the New York Times headline that week, which was Bank of England considering second bailout for the banks, right? So it's very much, to me, like, the philosophy and the proving grounds of where it came up through are pretty anathema to where it would have come from if it was that type of psyop, because you could have just as easily had some bank no one has ever heard of come up with this technology that explodes onto the scene, right? Like, it would have been so easy to do. And you could have released it as this polished piece of software when it was just this mess of spaghetti code that, and that's part of the reason why a lot of the people that come from it from the purely technical side will tell you that something has to replace it eventually, is because it's kind of messy. But it's that very messiness, that way it grew up, that and how solidified that messiness has become, that gives it its staying power in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's see. We talked about taking the buying pressure off of gold. Next question. What is preventing the government from controlling crypto transactions?
That's akin to asking what's preventing the government from controlling the internet. It's the same question, because you're just talking about private encrypted messages going across the internet. They can make whatever laws they want, but at the end of the day, every time they've tried, that's the whole reason VPNs exist, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I can make it so that my traffic is encrypted and looks like it's all coming out of Ireland, and no one can honestly know what I'm doing if I do that.
Right. Let's see. We already talked about data encryption and quantum computing. Let's see. What happens if the government decides to shut down the internet? I think we've already covered that. Let's see. How should a person store Bitcoin? I think we've already discussed that. Okay, so the next set of questions is what makes are related to what makes Bitcoin unique. So, what does make Bitcoin unique? I mean, why is it different than the other cryptos, regular currencies and gold? What is it about Bitcoin that makes it special?
Well, those each of those comparisons could, you could talk about each one for about an hour if you wanted to. to me, what makes it unique is it's the proof of concept. It's the initial, this is what works to create something that's a decentralized asset for the internet. I think the way I've explained it to a few other people is if you think of it as like ice cream, right? Like ice cream flavors, Bitcoin is plain vanilla, and you might decide you're going to want all these other ice cream flavors, but at the end of the day, the one you're going to use the most of is plain vanilla because it goes into so many other flavors. It's what everyone uses to make a sundae out of, right? So in that sense, that's kind of what I think makes Bitcoin special in the digital world relation to other cryptocurrencies is it's the one that proved itself over time, and everything that's been done to develop it has been done with that in mind, with out of that blockchain trilemma in Bitcoin, security and decentralization in its development have always come first, no matter what the debate was. So
it's interesting that you say it's the one that proved itself over time, because I know that a lot of Bitcoiners are saying, oh, Bitcoin is going to completely replace gold. But now, in talking to you, you're saying, Bitcoin has proved itself over time. It's had an 11-year history, but, gold's been around for 6,000. So,
now we're talking the comparison to gold, and the comparison to gold is different than the comparison to other cryptocurrencies.
Okay.
And the comparison to gold, I would say, is it offers digital abilities that gold doesn't have. In the same sense that your weakness is your strength and your strength is your weakness, gold's strength is that it's the ultimate asset, bearer asset in the real world. If I physically hand you an ounce of gold, that transaction is untouchable by anyone else. And I think that Bitcoin creates that same thing just in the digital world only. And while it creates a barrier in the physicality of it for a lot of people, where I can't really hand you a Bitcoin physically, that's also what gives it its strength in the digital world, because I can give you possession of Bitcoin across an internet connection.
Well, one could argue that there are the same mechanisms available for gold. I mean, we have new facilities now, such as One Gold or Gold Money, that can transfer gold to other people digitally, right?
But yeah, that's true, and that would be akin to custodial Bitcoin in my eyes, because you're talking about, once again, you're interjecting a counterparty, and I'm not of the mindset that counterparties are necessarily a bad thing, but you are taking on the liability of that counterparty, then giving you back your gold or giving you back your Bitcoin. I think it's really interesting. I don't know if you saw the news with Peter Schiff and Gold Money, and he's caught a lot of flack out of Australia. 60 Minutes, I think, did a piece with him that was rather disingenuous. But in the same sense, I would kind of make the argument that if Gold Money became so popular that people started trading it as currency, it would go the way that happened to, if you ever followed the Liberty Dollar and Bernard von Nothaus's idea from the late 2000s, where he created that Liberty Dollar that was based off of silver and gold and precious metals. And then once it started to take off, the government came in and decided, nah, we don't like this anymore. We're shutting you down and confiscating everything.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that was because he actually put the word dollar on it, right?
Yeah, but he had actually gotten express permission to do that before he actually used that term, which was the funny part of that. They just changed their mind after.
Yeah, governments tend to do that, don't they?
But to me, it's like, if you watch what they do, don't listen to what they say, because that you're better off that way, because what they're actually doing shows you what their intentions are. You're never going to figure out what they're doing if you're listening to what they say.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Here's another question. What do you think of gold-backed cryptos?
As we talked about earlier, I'm interested. I haven't bought any yet. I've been really close to getting a little bit of Pax Gold here or there, but I haven't really yet. And I could see that as a mechanism, like we talked about. Like if I thought Bitcoin was overvalued, I would probably consider trading into some cryptographic gold. I like real gold just the same as you do. Like I think there's something extra about being able to, hold it in your hand and give it to someone else, and actually having that ownership but I'm interested. I wouldn't advocate anyone buy them unless they've really done their research. And that's kind of why I haven't yet, is I don't feel like I have enough of a grasp on what their auditing mechanisms are yet. But at some point I probably will.
Mm-hmm. Well, me personally, this is something that's piqued my interest. It's one of the things that, I think are potentially useful about cryptocurrencies. But personally, I have concerns like you do over counterparty risk.
Yep.
More so that it overrides my concerns about validation of transfer. So,
yep.
Gold is my reserve. I don't use it for day-to-day transactions. If I need to sell it or liquidate it, I always can, and then go to currency and then spend the currency. I don't really see leaving my gold with a custodian, partially because of that, but also because of privacy, right? Because as soon as you leave your gold on deposit with a big organization, that is discoverable. That's discoverable wealth. And if you're party to, let's say, a lawsuit, there are certain assets that are difficult to attach in a lawsuit, right? One of which is ERISA protected accounts such as 401ks, and cash balance pensions. But other assets that are very difficult to go after are the assets that nobody knows about.
Yep.
Right.
They're almost impossible.
What's that?
They're almost impossible to go after.
That's right. That's right. So, there's something to be said for privacy, even though there's a risk of potential theft if you're careless with it. There's also the benefit of being a way to avoid being the victim of theft from an overzealous legal system.
That's true.
Okay.
In that sense, though, that's part of why I would say if you're going to go down that road, you really need to do your research, because a lot of these, I don't know of any of them that are based out of the United States. And you also have to keep in mind that most governments are kind of more in competition with each other than they are in cooperation with each other. So, if you had, say, cryptographic gold that's, going out of Sweden, they're not going to be very or Switzerland, it's almost like in the same sense, like of a Swiss bank account, if it's in some jurisdiction where they don't have to report anything, but they do tie you to it, are the odds that they're going to make that discoverable if the US government comes knocking on their door? There's different levels of risk to all of it, but you're right in the sense that the best way is always to have your own possession. That's always going to be the safest thing, no matter what you're talking about.
Exactly.
Possession is 9/10 of the law, right?
Yeah. Well, possession and privacy. Once something is visible, I think 9/10 of the law means that you could potentially be a target too.
Well, that's true, but I lost all mine in a tragic boating accident. I don't know about you.
Oh, absolutely. I keep losing it in a tragic boating accident. Along with all the guns, right?
Yeah, along with any guns you have.
All right, last question, and then we're done.
Okay.
What do you think of Kinesis money?
So that was the project that was out of Indonesia. You actually made me look that one up. I see that as akin to Pax Gold and Tether Gold. It's interesting. They use a different network. They use Stellar's network, which is another cryptocurrency that's kind of semi in competition with the Ethereum network. And they're just getting a bank full of gold and issuing this Kinesis money based off their hoard of that, and you can audit it the same way. I'm just as interested in that as I am in any of those types of projects. I'm not opposed, unlike most of the crypto community, I'm not 100% opposed to counterparties. I always think that you're better off, like we just talked about, holding it yourself. But I also recognize that for a lot of people, that presents other challenges that may be greater than having a counterparty that's reputable hold it for you. And
don't you have to go through a counterparty in order to exchange your cryptocurrencies with somebody else? I mean, you can't just go use your Trezor and send somebody else Bitcoin without putting it on an exchange, right?
No, you can totally. Actually, there's one of the things that's grown up and come a long way in this bear market, which existed during the last bull market or during the bull market too, is decentralized exchanges. So instead of going through that third party, like say Coinbase, where I put in Bitcoin and trade it for, USDC, a stable coin, I could actually go to a decentralized exchange, lock up some amount of Bitcoin in a multi-signature contract with that decentralized exchange that's waiting to match that multi-sig contract up with a buyer at the other level. And as soon as that hits, they auto execute, and there was never any counterparty.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. I didn't know about that.
Yeah,
it's not usable by most people. I'll say that. I mean, if you've ever done any kind of network transaction on the Ethereum network, it is by no means what I would call user friendly, but it can be done. I've used it a little bit here and there because, like I said, I like to play around with this stuff. So, but it works, and you're going to see companies put nice user interfaces on top of it. Some of those companies are going to be banks too, I think, eventually.
All right. Well, we are now out of questions, and we have talked for an awfully long time.
Yes.
I'd be surprised if most people are still with us. In fact, I noticed that my subscriber count went down as soon as they saw that I put up a series of interviews where we were even discussing crypto.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't even feel your subscriber count.
There are always going to be some people that react negatively whenever they see something that they don't agree with. And, sometimes they throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to say.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know. I kind of think that, like, this stuff excites me because of the potential it has for the future. So I'm always open to new arguments and ideas about it. I love that I thought a lot of the comments that were in your comment sections were great. Even the ones that are particularly negative, because, like if you don't have the counterpoint of view, you can't ever be sure that you're right, No,
that's well said. Yeah, and I think you're right. The kinds of questions that I get from my subscriber base are, well thought out, intelligent questions. I mean, occasionally I get some fairly gruff comments, but for the most part, I'm blessed to have, such a thoughtful group of subscribers. And, we tend to exchange ideas online, which is very good. I think it's a fruitful place for people to, learn from each other. And it could be that it's because the subject matter of most of my videos are so dry, it tends to, eliminate all the people that tend to make all their decisions on an emotional basis only.
Well, it's also the, it's also the new medium too, because there's so much, like, I love that you've got this world where people can tune into something like this, as opposed to just having to deal with what's on MSNBC or, God forbid, Jim Cramer's Mad Money or something like that, because that's all there used to be, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, so we're done with the series. Do you have any closing comments that you'd like to make for the viewers of my channel?
No, I thank you for listening. And if you guys want to have me on again at some point to discuss anything else, I'm happy to talk Bitcoin for as long as Paul's happy to hear me talk about it.
All right. Well, I'm glad you decided to join us, and I'm sure that the people that were asking questions about cryptocurrency had a chance to hear a unique point of view that's not going to be necessarily aligned with the pure gold advocates or the pure silver advocates, but also not aligned with what you call the Bitcoin maximalists. So
yes,
I appreciate you spending all the time talking with me, and thanks for the information.
You're quite welcome. It's always a pleasure, Paul.